It's official. Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York City. His campaign energized progressives and young people, and its success shocked many in the old guard. Does his win and how he ran his campaign hold any lessons for political parties up north? I talked to Jen Hassum, executive director from the Broadbent Institute. Jen, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Now, if you were to ask me a year ago, who is Zoran Mandani, I would probably tell you, like most people, I don't know, I've never heard that name. But now, suddenly, his name is everywhere, of course, because he deserved it. He won the mayoral race in New York. Can you take a step back? How did he get his political start?
Oh, great question. And so basically in New York City, there is the New York City DSA, so the Democratic Socialists of America. And they canvass and have groups of people who do tenant organizing, worker organizing, and electoralism. So nominating people to run for office and supporting their campaigns. And Zoran Mamdani was someone who in 2017 joined the New York City DSA in order to support a candidate, went door to door. The candidate ultimately lost, but Zoran really liked the political process and got involved, and people encouraged him to run as a assemblyman, so our equivalent of an MPP here in Ontario. And then, once again, in last summer, he thought about running for mayor, to be mayor. And the DSA had run him on the ballot. And that's really how it started, was just someone who volunteered to make a difference in their community, go door to door, start talking to people, and then just loved the process and got involved.
What about Mamdani's campaign made such an impact?
Oh, I mean, where do we go with this question? Everywhere, and so much of it. I think that for me, something that was impactful as someone who organizes and has a history of organizing tenants, unions, and the electoral process, I find it remarkable that 10,000 people volunteered in order to go door to door. They reached 1.2 million New Yorkers. And so when you think of that, it means that, yes, Zoran Mamdani is a socialist, is Muslim, and is rising to this occasion despite being hammered by the mainstream media. And he's able to do that because there's this huge groundswell of people who are willing to have one-on-one conversations with people about the issues that really matter. And that's, I think, the secret sauce of like why it is that he could withstand the levels of attacks that happened against him, was because it's really, really, really a grassroots thing and grassroots system. There's no big money behind it, but there's definitely big money, billionaires who funded lots and lots of ads against him. But people can overcome that if we come together and work on a project.
Now, a lot of his success was chalked up to his digital strategy as well. It's been reported that there's been already politicians who have tried to copy it, not as successful. What was it about his digital strategy that was so effective?
Well, it mirrors that of the community organizing model. So his digital strategists weren't paid. His digital strategists were really a collective of creators who volunteered to be part of it, to be part of the campaign. And so this isn't a transactional relationship. And it could be anybody. It could be some of like the really amazing artists and comedians and podcasters who we see in New York City. But it's also everyday regular people who are remixing things that he's doing or saying. And that is, I think, the spark of a campaign that is hopeful and that is engaged and that takes people in. And I think it is absolutely remarkable, and really kudos to those creators who bravely decided to put their trust in someone running for office. I think there's a lot of cynicism these days about politics, and I share that too. But I think that there's a lot of faith that Zoran Mandani isn't going to sell anybody out because he's built like this movement, and he's been part of it for so long.
All right, talking about the undertaking of the community, the success that he had with that, we want to play a clip that I'm sure a few people have probably seen, our viewers, if they've been scrolling on their socials. This is a clip from his TikTok. Let's have a look.
Hello, my friends. I have to come clean. I have something to hide. Many things, in fact, because we're doing a scavenger hunt.
What was it, something as simple as a scavenger hunt? How was that so successful in getting people on the grounds and asking questions and thinking of him?
Well, it's part of the whole network of the New York City DSA and Zoran Mamdani's campaign. It was fun. It was fun to be part of. And there were meetup groups of dads taking their kids to the parks, running clubs of people going running, coffee shop meetups. People had fundraisers and canvas meetings in their own living rooms and patios. And so the scavenger hunt was this mega thing where they had stops all over New York City. It's free to participate. And thousands upon thousands of people came out. In fact, they ran out of cards that they had printed. And what is really essential about this scavenger hunt, and yes, we saw online how fun it was, and people are sharing their participation and love for their city. But he took them, and his campaign took them to stops all over New York City in order to acclimatize the notion of a very progressive socialist mayor. And so they were visiting spots that were part of left history in New York City. And that's something that, we could also do in Canada. And I'm reminded by this, I've got a flyer in Saskatchewan that was made in the 70s. That was just about reminding people in Saskatchewan about their own socialist history and where they came from. And so these are, this is important to acclimatize people, especially when you're under this kind of level of attack, that it's fine, normal, and in fact, part of our political heritage.
Well, let's bring it back home. I'm hoping we don't have to go that far back into history, but is there someone like a Mamdani here in Canada?
Well, I mean, here's where, I believe in the everyday person. And I think that we all have the ability to be one of those 10,000 people that volunteers in order to be part of a political thing. And that's how his policy was developed. That's how people built these networks. And I think that's the most important thing. And from that, we will find the next Zoran Mamdani of Canada, or of where I am in Cambridge, Ontario, or where you are in Eglinton Lawrence area filming from TVO Studios. This is how we develop the next Zoran. We don't have a search committee looking for a particular resume and someone who already has media exposure. That's not how Zoran discovered his voice. He discovered it by talking to everyday people, knocking on the doors and talking about tenants issues, workers issues, and campaigning in elections. And that's what has gained his confidence, his ability to speak so succinctly and to develop this amazing platform of freezing rents, universal childcare, free buses. These are ideas that came directly out of talking with everyday people when canvassing.
Jen, there are a few parties in the country that are looking for new leaders. What lessons should be taken from Mamdani's campaign?
That your volunteer base, whether it is people who are knocking on doors or people who are creating community or content creators, that they matter. And you ought to work primarily with them and build up from there. Because those 1.2 million conversations that New Yorkers had out of 10,000 volunteers, and only 2 full-time staff were part of the New York City DSA that led to that mobilization, that it's entirely possible to do it, but we need to think about how we structure campaigns and do it really differently.
Jen, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.